Okay, I think we can begin. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Marwa Shille, and I work with Education USA in the West Bank. Today is our third and final session of Getting Ready for US Study series. Today, first, we will start with Melissa. She is the Regional Educational Advising Coordinator for different countries in the Middle East and North Africa region, and she will be introducing our presenters and also will do the welcoming remarks. And then two of our presenters for the day, they will discuss two different topics, support services for international students and also maintaining visa status. And then you will have a chance to answer your questions. And so our presenters today will answer your questions twice, and these sections will be facilitated by our Education USA advisors in Tunisia and Lebanon. And also two of our presenters will discuss on-campus jobs, curricular practical training, and optional practical training as well. And at the end, Melissa will conclude this session. And now I will hand it over to you, Melissa. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. And just a warm welcome to everybody that's joining us today via the Zoom or any of the Facebook Live sessions that are streaming to our centers. We know this is an exciting time typically as students are really gearing up and getting ready to make their way to start their undergraduate programs. And given all the uncertainty this year and many of the complications, we know that some of that excitement is kind of turned more into anxiety. But what we do want to be able to do is give you the information and the tools and the resources to help, alleviate some of those concerns, but also address some of the questions that you might still have. So we are really thankful for the presenters that we have joining us today. We have a wonderful panel with representatives from Lone Star College, Shoreline Community College, Valparaiso University, and also Savannah College of Art and Design. And as Marwa mentioned, some of the topics that we will be addressing, you will get to learn many more things about those subject areas, but also really to ask your questions so that you can get all of those answers today, hopefully, or at least be connected with some of those answers down the line. For all the students that have gotten their acceptances, a huge congratulations. I know it's been a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, in a sense, as we say, to get to this point. And so we do want to get you there to the US, to your programs. And so let's see what we can answer for you during our session today. So now I want to turn it over to our first speaker. I believe is going to be Farzan, yes? Who will be speaking to you about international student support services, which is a very key thing to know about even before you go, so that you understand, just how supported you are for your success. So over to you, Farzan.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa, and everybody, and thank you for the opportunity. Again, my name is Farzana Kolawala, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving as an international director at Lone Star College. We are based here in Houston, Texas, and we have about 3,000 international students. So with that, I will just go on to the next slide and jump right in. So first of all, congratulations to all the students who have been accepted. Maybe some of you are still waiting for your visas, no problem. Some of them already have it. So what do you do once you are accepted? So look at and that you're ready to leave your home country to come to the US. So make sure your documents are in place. So the most important document, of course, will be your passport, your US visa, and your I-20. Make sure your I-20s have the correct names, correct date of birth. Make sure it is from the right institution that you are trying to use the I-20 to go to the US. I know that, a lot of students get accepted to 5 to 10 institutions. Make sure you are carrying the right documents with you. You know, take some transcripts with you. You know, if your institution has asked for transcripts, you know, on arrival, make sure that you have you know, some originals and copies to take in case you have to submit those. However, I will tell you that these documents are very precious and very important, so please do not check any of these in your luggage. Please make sure that they're in your hand carry, or they're in your personal item, your laptop bag, wherever you can easily find it, you know, wherever you are able to just keep them with you all the time. You will have to present all of these at the port of entry, not the transcripts, but you know, your passport, which has the US visa in it, and your I-20. And of course, you'll be asked certain questions. You know, make sure that at the port of entry, that the CBP officer actually stamps your passport. You know, sometimes we have students who arrive on campus where the passport hasn't been stamped. You know, so once in a while that does happen. So make sure that those are in order. When you're booking your tickets, I would say check for layovers, especially in this climate. Make sure that the country where you have a layover, you know, check for how long it is, you know, if you're comfortable, you know, being at the airport for that long. And secondly, with, you know, the pandemic going around, make sure that the layover is in a country where you are accepted as the, you know, for example, you know, maybe a country doesn't accept citizens of Saudi Arabia or Egypt right now, just because of, you know, the way the pandemic is. So look at those and make sure that the layover is in a country where you will be allowed to stop before you come to the US. Correct port of entry. You know, a lot of students, in my experience, sometimes I have seen that they're confused. You know, a lot of states and a lot of cities have the same name. I mean, a lot of cities have the same names, but they're in different states in the US. Make sure you know where you're going, and that if you have your tickets, you know, make sure you're going to the right place. Packing your belongings. I know that it's very emotional for students to, you know, to take some things from their home country so that they feel at home when they're coming to the US. Just make sure that you pack your essentials first, and research a little bit as to where are you going. You know, are you going to a city, for example, are you coming to Houston? You know, things are available, you know, down the street, even from, you know, different ethnic foods and all of that. So try not to carry all of those. You know, if you're stopped at the CBP, you know, you might run into some trouble if you're carrying food. Of course, dry packaged food is kind of okay, and, you know, all students carry that. But just know, where are you going? Is this going to be available there? Don't put it in your bag. You know, carry some essentials which you may not find where you're going. You know, contact your institution. Know if there is any transportation that's available from the institution, if somebody's coming to pick you up at the airport, or, you know, do you have to make your way to the campus, or your, you know, where, if you're living on campus, or if you're living off campus at an apartment or homestay, whatever it is. Make sure that your campus knows you're arriving on a certain date at a certain time. Most institutions do have a hotline number or an after hours number that you can call. Make sure you have all of those emergency numbers, you know, with you. If you have a working phone, that's great. If you don't, then, you know, there are payphones at the airport. Sometimes, you know, of course, once you land at the airport, you can always ask somebody to borrow their phone. You know, people are really friendly in the United States, and helpful too. So, you know, make sure you just ask. Carry some money, but not a huge amount of money. A lot of students try to bring, you know, their entire tuition or their first semester tuition with them. Please do not do that. You know, your institution will allow you some time to pay for your tuition, you know, within the semester. Check what, if there is a payment plan, or if you have to pay your tuition in the first week or on the first day. check with your institution. However, carry something like a traveler's check or a bank draft, or go there and make a wire transfer. Please do not carry a lot of money on you, just some money to get you by, maybe for the first few days. So next slide, please. What do you do next? So say you are now here in the US, you've cleared everything, you had a great flight. The first thing you do is you check in with your international student advisor. Of course, hopefully they already know that you're arriving on a certain date at a certain time. And some of the campuses will proactively reach out to you just to make sure that everything's okay. But the first thing and the most important resource for you throughout your time at an institution is going to be your international student advisor. For example, at Lone Star College, we are spread across 7 campuses. We have an international student advisor on each campus. So if you are going to a large system like that, ask to see, is there one centralized office you need to go to, or are there people to help you on each individual campus? And then the most important would be to attend orientation. A lot of students think that, oh, it's just orientation. I think I'll get that information from my friends or maybe from another source. Orientation is extremely important. You get all the resources that that you will need to be successful throughout your time. It can be an information overload, but that's okay. There will be some repetition. There will be some other instances in which the same information will be given to you, but please do not miss orientation. There are certain campuses, they allow you to take a placement test as soon as you come in. It's just, it doesn't affect your admission. What it really is doing is making sure, are you ready for college level, or do you have to do some remedial work? We have academic advisors. They will help you register for classes. And then, in the series, you're going to just make arrangements for your tuition payment. So again, going back to what I said, please don't carry money. Ask your institution what's the best way to make payments on tuition. Next slide, please. So here, we have, as I told you, your go-to is going to be your International Student Services Office, or, whatever name that they have, sometimes International Student Services, sometimes International Programs, International Education. Your advisors are going to be your go-to. So there are several things that they do to support students, and which are very basic, throughout most campuses in the United States. There is some, acclimation support. So we all know that, you've come from a different country. There are things that are different in your home country than they are in the US. And I will honestly tell you, the process sometimes becomes very frustrating for students coming, for the first time to the US. The rules are different. Why can I not do this? This is silly. And which is fine. Everybody goes through that. It's just that, you have to take your time to get assimilated and to know how things work where you are. So some of the support services that, at least these are examples of what we do with Lone Star College. We help students open up bank accounts. We will give you some information on how to open bank accounts. Bank accounts, usually, some of the banks actually ask for a social security number, some don't. So, we would provide some resources for the student to know which ones, they can choose. Of course, you want to choose something that's local. Help getting driver's licenses. If you're going to just walk or bike, that's fine. If you think you need a driver's license, or if you need a state ID, the advisors can help you out with that. If you receive an on-campus employment, you can apply for social security numbers. And again, my colleagues will go through all of that, in terms of employment and what's allowed and what's not. Assistance with on-campus employment. And of course, I think more importantly, what we as advisors would like to do is we like to show you around. The campus is important, your classes are important, but what we really want to do is we want to showcase our city. So, you know, in Houston, for example, of course, it's, you know, it's a very diverse city. There's, you know, there's a beach, there are parks, there are, you know, the great nightlife and all of that. Of course, we won't take you clubbing, but, you know, we will, of course, take you on field trips, which are, you know, educational and cultural. For example, we have a great museum district here in downtown Houston. So, again, you know, just some things that will help you get assimilated to wherever you are. You know, the most important part of the student services aspect of an advisor is also your SCVP, your regulations advising. So full-time study, you know, employment, graduation, are you on track? Transfers, if you're going to a community college like Lone Star, you know, what are your transfer options? You know, how do you get to Texas A&M from Lone Star College? So all of those services are provided. Employment services like CPT, you know, curricular practical training, your OPT, those are all, again, provided. You know, advising is provided by the international advisors, and my colleagues will talk about that today. Next slide, please. Academic support. So I think one of the most important things that you will know that on campuses, it differs per campus in the US, but there is, you know, great academic support for students too. So for example, at Lone Star College, you'll have your international student advisor who will advise you on everything that I just mentioned, and then you'll have your academic advisors. Your academic advisors are there to make sure that you are staying on track, you're completing on track, you're taking the classes you're supposed to be taking, and not just randomly picking classes. You know, we don't want to waste anybody's time and money. We want to make sure that students are progressing in their academic career. There are also, on all campuses, you will find some disability services, which means if you need any accommodations. Some of you may not be good test takers, you know, some of you may have some anxiety. If you have any sort of, you know, accommodations that would necessitate for maybe, you know, a test by yourself or some extra time on a test, etc., please talk to your advisors. Let them know. We don't know if you don't tell us. So it's very important to be in touch and to communicate with your advisors to make sure they understand your situation. A lot of the campuses provide mentoring and you know, tutoring support as well. So mentors are usually there to kind of get you assimilated again, you know, social and cultural support on campus. Tutoring, like at Lone Star College, we have tutors. We have student tutors, we have professional tutors who help you through a particular class if you're having trouble with that. And usually those are free services, at least at Lone Star they are. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, employment support. You know, a lot of students, when they come on campus, they're looking for some sort of an on-campus employment. Maybe it's volunteer, maybe it's paid, whatever you want to do. You know, my colleagues will cover exactly what are the do's and don'ts of employment. But some of the employment support that's provided on campuses is, you know, of course, if you want to find an on-campus job, off-campus job, again, going into the do's and don'ts. But more importantly, for graduating students at Lone Star College, we have a bunch of resources like resume writing, you know, mock interviews. We have career fairs, you know, job fairs to help you find a job while you're in OPT or whatever you're doing after you graduate. And most importantly, you know, for our students, we want to make sure that you're successful not only while you are here, but also in your next career path. You know, look out for, oh, we at Lone Star, we have a program like Dress for Success. You know, they even offer to help you, you know, dress well for an interview, you know, and also give you resources as to where you can find, you know, some inexpensive clothes if you want to buy them, or even actually rent them out for some of our graduates. So, you know, ask around. There are a lot of resources for students. Next slide, please. Some of the other examples that I would like to give you, which are very important, are counseling. A lot of students, please know that a lot of international students, we all in the same boat here. We all come from different countries. You are great students in your home countries. You're actually great students, you know, in the US as well. But some of us need that extra push just because there's so many variables. You're in a new place, you don't know what's going on. You may need extra help academically. You may need extra help in social support. So please make sure that you are reaching out and you are and you are communicating with the people that are there to help you. So again, there's student life, there are clubs and organizations you can be a part of. The Honors College is we have something called the Honors College at Lone Star. It's a rigorous curriculum. It is selective admission. It's more like a little private setting, you know, for high achieving students. There are scholarships and financial aid. Please ask. Students think that, oh, I'm an international student, I'm not going to get any scholarship, I'm not eligible for financial aid. Please ask to make sure that you fill out the form and you get that money, which is yours. I have seen scholarships being given out just because you are left-handed, because it's so rare. You know, so ask around and make sure that, you know, you're getting the most of what's available. At Lone Star College, because we are a community college, we have some older than average students as well. You know, we provide some childcare. We provide something called Care for Completion, which is basically, you know, housing, food, and clothing support, wellness support for our students. And we also have a robust international program, study abroad program, which helps our students travel internationally. Next slide, please. Most importantly, if you're going to a community college, I think it's very important to know that what is going to be your next step. At a community college, you know, you're getting an associate degree, which is not very well known in other countries. It's an acceptable, well-known degree in the US. A lot of students go through community colleges before they transfer to a four-year institution. Please know what are your options after the community college level. So most institutions will have something called articulation agreements, which is just a seamless credit transfer to other institutions, sometimes local, sometimes within the state, sometimes even out of state. So depending on where you're going, find out what are your options, which is the next institution I can go to. Something that is unique to Lone Star College is that we actually have university centers. So on 2 of our 7 campuses, we have buildings which are allocated to our articulation partners, where they hold their classes, you know, on the Lone Star College campus. So basically, if you want your bachelor's degree from University of Houston downtown, you want your degree from Stephen Austin, etc. So there are certain institutions which actually provide their entire bachelor's degree on our campus, so you don't have to move. If you're in the area, you just continue on, you know, at the Lone Star College campus to complete your degree. So please make sure that, you know, while you've already done your research before you come on a particular campus, that you ask around and that you make sure you put yourself out there so you can, you know, make friends. You know, there is, as I said, there's so much support, you know, cultural, academic, and even, you know, while you're transferring or while you're transitioning to another institution. So I think with that, the most important in these times would be the COVID-related support services. So please know that a lot of institutions, you know, all the institutions are following CDC guidelines. We have to make sure that, you know, our students, staff, and faculty, they're all safe. So right now, for example, most institutions have changed their mode of instruction. Some are going completely online. If that is the case, please find out what your options are with that institution. Most of them, I would say, are doing the hybrid options, which is there is a physical presence component. So instead of going to class, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, you're going maybe once every 2 weeks, but you are seeing somebody in person. And then the rest of the coursework is done online. Some institutions like Lone Star College, we have a mix of, classes online, some classes are hybrid, and some classes are actually face-to-face. We just have smaller classrooms now for about, 6 to 10 students, as opposed to like 25, 30 students in one class. And again, we have to follow the social distancing and, wearing a mask, making sure that everybody else around you and yourself, you're safe. How do you know that what is it that you have to do? Or if you're unable to hear from your student, or if you're unable to decide, is this going to be a safe time for me to go? Follow social media, check your emails, check the institution's newsletters, contact your international student advisor, ask them what are my options if I cannot make it. Like for example, at Lone Star College, what we are doing is we are allowing students to start in the fall semester online if they're unable to come to our campus. So we select some classes for you which are completely online, no proctored testing. You start online, and then maybe in the spring semester when things start to open up, you can actually come in, come physically and attend classes. So again, ask what your options are, especially in these times. Next slide, please. Okay, so with that, I guess, thank you again for the opportunity. We are Lone Star College here in Houston, and we are also part of the Study Texas. It's a great state to be in. And of course, Houston is a great city. These are some email addresses that I would like to share with you if you want to get in touch with us. It's not only because, you don't have to come to Lone Star College. You can ask us any general information too, and we'll be happy to answer. So with that, I'll turn it on to my colleagues. Thank you.
Am I up?
Yes.
So,
yes, Jeff.
السلام عليكم. اسمي جيف. أنا من جامعات في أمريكا, SCAD. That's the Savannah College of Art and Design. Again, welcome everyone. If you've made it to this point in the presentation, that means that you have obtained admission to a university in the US. We have determined that you meet the financial resources required in order to be issued an I-20. We have shipped that I-20 to you either both digitally or physically, and in my university's case, we send both. And you have had a successful outcome at your U.S. consulate that has issued you an I-20, okay, or excuse me, issued you the F-1 visa. So again, international students who successfully obtain the F-1 visa will enter the U.S. in F-1 status, okay? And so once you're admitted at a U.S. port of entry, again, it's crucial that the port of entry officer actually stamp your passport with F1 D/S. That way, when we check you in at orientation, we are certain that you entered the country in that status, okay? What does the D/S acronym stand for? Again, that's duration of studies. So what that essentially means is that as long as you're maintaining a full course of study in the US, you can remain here legally, okay? Again, F1 students, that is international students on an I-20, have a number of requirements they must abide by to remain compliant, okay? And again, it's going to vary from university to college throughout the United States. For example, the university that I work at, Savannah College of Art and Design, we operate on a quarter system. And so that's going to be uniquely different than a university that may operate on a semester system, okay? But at a minimum, undergraduate students on F1 visas must take at least 12 credit hours per term. Summers are generally considered a vacation period. Again, a period of time when you do not need to enroll in courses, okay? Students in postgraduate programs, and again, my university has no PhD programs. We only have a Master of Urban Design, Master of Fine Arts, Master of Architecture, and Master of Art programs. Students have to be enrolled in a minimum of 9 credits per term, okay? So next slide. Again, if you're coming to the United States to begin in an English language program, just understand that, for example, my university offers an ESL program, but you don't actually earn any college credits in that ESL program. So be very mindful of what the ESL program that you're enrolled in is going to require in terms of clock hours, okay? And again, online courses cannot count toward a full course of study for an English language training student, okay? So if you are an F1 student and you're unsure if your class schedule meets the requirements for a full course of study, again, it's critical that you establish a working relationship with your international student advisor. And all universities and colleges throughout the United States are going to have an international student advisor that also serves as what we call the DSO, or a designated school official, okay? Again, your international student advisor can verify your class schedule and that it meets the requirements to maintain your F1 status, okay? Now, if meeting a full course load requirement is difficult for you, talk to your international student advisor immediately to discuss if you might be eligible for a reduced course load, okay? They can advise you about what reduced course loads are, all right? So let's go to the next slide. So again, my university, as do many in the US, will have what we call an add drop week, okay? That's generally the first week of the term where you have the opportunity to change your course schedule, modify things. You don't want an 8 a.m. class because you're not a morning person. You have the unique ability to manipulate your schedule. Again, this may not hold true for most universities, but I may not hold true for some universities, but it does for most, that you have a week of add drop, okay? And so my university, for example, maintains a full-time advisor that does nothing during the first week of add drop, but monitor our international student enrollments, okay? And so, for example, at my university, because we're on the quarter system, undergraduate students can only take one e-learning course or virtual course, which is a 5-credit-hour course. The other 2 classes have to be on campus or main ground, okay? So again, make sure you remain in close contact with your ISSO office or international student advisor, and make sure you understand what constitutes a proper course of study from one term to the next. So I'll give you an example. You can go to the next slide, that's fine. I'll give you a couple of quick examples. Again, I work at SCAD for 21 years. 19 of those were spent as the director of ISSO. So I was actually here in 2003 when we transitioned to CVIS. And so the requirement that you enroll full-time is something that has been in place for years and years. But just a couple of examples. On the last day of add drop, on occasion, we'll have students that will log in and change their course schedule at 6 p.m. after we've gone home from work on a Friday. And we'll log in on Monday and see that they actually changed their schedule over the weekend, and they've actually dropped a main campus class and enrolled in an additional e-learning class. And so those are the types of things that can get you in trouble in terms of maintaining your status. So just be very mindful that you maintain a relationship with your international student advisor so that they can advise you on how to stay in status. It's pretty critical, okay? Now, there's been a little bit of discussion about the COVID-19 rules. Again, some updates were released last Friday from USCIS. And so if most of you on this Zoom meeting will be new students for fall, that is, you have not entered the US yet, but you intend to in August or September, know that you must attend a university that is offering main campus or in-session classes. And so if you are coming to the US this fall, it's critical that you reach out to your university and inquire with them what their mode of instruction will be for fall. Many of us are offering, as my colleague mentioned earlier, a hybrid type environment where we'll have some main campus classes and we'll have a good bit of the portion of the coursework will be offered virtually. But again, if your university that you intend to enroll at this fall is 100% online, then you'll need to speak with them about deferring to a future term where they plan to bring on-campus classes back, okay? And so most of the content that I just delivered can be found at the Study in the States website. That's a website hosted by DHS or Department of Homeland Security. Again, each university is going to have a unique interpretation of how they determine full-time enrollment. It will vary from an undergraduate student to a graduate student to someone working on a PhD. So that's why it's critical that you maintain a close relationship with your international student advisor, okay? And so next slide. So again, I work at SCAD. We're the University for Creative Careers. Again, in the wake of this pandemic, a number of our students have had the unique opportunity to work remotely. We offer a wide array of majors, all the way from animation to visual effects to architecture. And so if you want more information about SCAD, I will leave my email address in the chat box. If you have an interest in studying art and design in the US, again, please do consider coming to SCAD. And that's the end of maintaining status. Again, always maintain a relationship with your international student advisor, okay?
Thank you so much, Jeff and Perzan. And now we have a few questions, and Sirine Mami, our Education USA advisor in Tunisia, will facilitate the questions. Sirine?
Thank you. Thank you, Marwa.
You're welcome.
Okay, so please, students, if you can submit your questions here so that the presenters can help you answer them. I think we have a question. What are some of the most popular clubs on US campuses? Would it be possible for me to start my own student club? What is that process like? Also, yeah, this is a very long, okay.
Let's answer one question at a time.
Okay, so
Yes.
what are some of the most popular clubs on US campuses?
It's a complicated question. Most campuses have anywhere from 100 to 200 to 300 clubs. I think for international students, one of the most popular clubs is the variations of international student organizations. That's how I got first involved with international students, was when I worked at when I was a student at the University of Arizona. I joined the International Student Club. And then on my campus, because we're at Valparaiso University, we call it VISA, Valparaiso International Student Association. But there's everything from professional clubs related to engineering or to art, or there's sororities or fraternities. There's a Saudi clubs. We have a Muslim student association. There's an anime club. There's a comedy club. So, I mean, the clubs are infinite. Most schools, if you get 5 friends, you can start a club. What some clubs you have, Jeff?
So I was just going to add that in the course of my tenure working in international education, have been the advisor to the international clubs. We call it the Intercultural Student Association here at SCAD. They plan cookouts, events, we go whitewater rafting. We do a whole number of things that afford them the opportunity to get to know one another. But as you said, Marcy, there are hundreds of clubs on any specific campus. So at my particular school, an art and design school, we'll have animation clubs, illustration clubs. So again, it's important that you connect with your student activities council when you arrive on your campus. Also, many universities, mine in particular, will have a club week, usually the first week or 2 of the semester or quarter, where you can actually come to a cookout or a carnival type event and learn more about all the clubs that the university has to offer.
Thank you for this reply. And the student, I think they're still asking, is it possible for me to start my own student club?
Usually.
Absolutely.
Usually, like, need 5 friends, and then you can even get funding to start the club.
Okay. Okay, so another
Noreen, I would
question.
just like to add something
Okay.
else. I think students are, interested in clubs and organizations. I think that's great. One of the things that international students should also consider is getting into the student government organization. So there are student government organizations which actually, advocate on behalf of students to administrators. And it's very important for international students to get their voice heard through that organization as well.
Thank you for this reply. We have another question. So someone is saying that they are an international student and they're asking if they have an option to study a master's with a conditional admission for intensive English and a master's in architecture.
Jeff?
Okay, so conditional admission for universities such as mine would entail whether you meet our criteria for exceeding the English language requirement. So my university actually has an ESL program. We have a pathway program as well. So if you don't meet our ESL requirements, you'll start an ESL. You'll actually get a pathway program I-20, which will list the Master of Architecture program on it in tandem with the need to begin in the ESL program. But again, that's unique to my university. Not all universities offer an English as a second language program.
We have conditional admission, but we do not have an architecture for both bachelor's and master's at Valparaiso. And I know both of these community colleges also, I think, offer ESL as part of their programs. So I'm very familiar with both schools. Right, Lone Star, you guys have ESL?
Yes, we do. So
and I know
do
Shoreline, because I
ESL
worked there for
program.
5 years, has a ESL/bridge program.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, and also the same student is still asking, do you recommend GRE? If the graduate program does not need the GRE, will the Department of Engineering ask for it?
Each school has totally different requirements. So this is really, some schools, and a lot of schools, due to COVID, have moved away from some of the standardized tests. Some have done it on a temporary basis for the next 1 or 2 years. Some schools, like the University of California system, has gotten rid of the SAT and ACT forever. So these are, there are 5,000 colleges and university, and each have their own requirements, and and especially on the graduate level, sometimes each department has their own requirements.
Correct. I was actually just going to
community
say
colleges
that.
don't require it at all.
No, not at the community college level, but as Marcy said, if it is a professional program, like if it's health professions or if it's engineering or, some of the programs, even at the community college level, will have their own admission requirements, even though they may be different than being admitted to the college as such. So the engineering program, for example, at Lone Star College, we require that you complete calculus before you can even be admitted to the program. So like that, there will be different requirements.
Okay, thank you. So is it possible for international students to study medicine in the US?
That is a tricky question.
That is tricky.
Always.
Yes.
So nursing is very open to international students. Physician assistant is very open to international students. Most state universities, this is a sweeping generalization again, the majority of state universities do not allow international applicants. That's a majority, not exclusively. So it's mostly private institutions if they want to get a medical degree. What people should know about a medical degree in the United States is not direct entry. So when you graduate high school, you don't enter medical school. At 99%, there are some programs that are starting like that, but 99% of schools, you do not do direct entry into medical school. You do a bachelor's in something related to medicine usually, but it doesn't even have to be. My friend did business and just took the 7 required courses to take the MCAT, which is the exam you take to get a medical school. It's a very low percentage of students, international students, who get accepted to medical school. And there's very limited funding for students who get it. So it's not usually probably the best program. Now, what you should know about nursing in America is a lot of nurses, their starting salary is like $60,000, and after 3 years, they might be making $90,000. and that's for the 4-year nursing degree. So, you know, it's a very strong profession in the United States, and it's more of a profession where in some countries I know the nurses aren't treated very well. They're very well respected. So that's a path. Or, you know, physician, if you want to be, you don't want to be working, you know, giving prescriptions, you know, pharmaceuticals is a lot more open to international students. So, but becoming a doctor is a challenging path, but I've been doing this for 20 years. I know 3 of my students who have made it through the path, but it is not an easy path.
Okay, another question, are the graduate assistantship, does the graduate assistantship programs cover the cost of studying a master's degree?
Some schools, yes, some schools, no. So when I worked at Texas A&M, I would say probably about half my students were, but most of them were master PhD programs. But if it's a professional master's, like Jeff probably has an architecture, or what I have at Valparaiso, which is Masters of IT or Masters of Public Health, there's very few graduate assistantships, but there are some scholarships. Jeff?
So 80% of applicants that apply to SCAD receive some form of scholarship, but we're not a university that has any graduate assistantships. We rely solely on our faculty to teach our courses. So graduate assistantships don't exist at SCAD.
So it's more at the bigger research universities, I would say, that have those graduate assistantships where, you know, some of our more personal schools are using, we don't want to use them as teachers, and we're working more with professional masters that are leading directly to a profession versus a research master's, and they're more common in research masters.
Yes, Serene?
Yes, sorry for this
That's
delay.
okay.
Okay, so still students are asking about their organizations and club. Is there like a limit about the number of organizations or clubs that students can attend? And how can they manage their time with their academic studies as well?
Actually, the one great thing in the US is there's no limit. You can join as many clubs as you want. And unlike in some places, if you come and you find this isn't my favorite club, you don't have to keep coming. It's up to you. But I think all of my colleagues would agree your #1 job is to finish your homework and get good grades. And your #2 job is to make really great friends and join those organizations. So we encourage students to try new things, to explore, see what you fall in love with. But I remind students, if you feel stressed or you don't feel like you're doing enough in one club, you can always reorganize your time to make that time investment in the ones you like most while still getting good grades.
Thank you for answering these questions. Again, more questions will be answered by the presenters at the end of the session. So please, we encourage you to type your questions so that we can move into the second part of our virtual session today.
So the next thing we're going to do is talk about on-campus and off-campus employment. I used to work at Shoreline Community College. My name is Marcy Fradkin, and I have worked at like 6 different institutions, all different kinds and types. I have a degree in Middle Eastern Studies. I studied at the University of Jordan as part of my degree. And my Arabic is not very good, but I do speak a little bit. I can say what Jeff said. I understood Jeff. And, and I worked at Shoreline, but currently I'm at Valparaiso University, just outside Chicago.
Yes, and my name is Lisa Maroney. I currently work at Shoreline Community College, which is just north of Seattle, Washington. Like Marcy, I worked at a variety of institutions, previously at an engineering university and now here at community college. So I'm very excited to share with all of you what we know about employment. And I wanted to say congratulations to all of you for taking this important step. The US is really excited to welcome you when you're ready.
Okay, so a lot of what I'm going to talk about here have been mentioned a little bit by other people. So these are the rules, not to Shoreline, not to SCAD, not to Lone Star, not to Harvard. These are rules set by the US government on students' employment on campus. So basically what you need to know is your main purpose, as we've stated numerous times, is to study. So they limit the amount of hours you're allowed to work on campus. So an international student without special permission are only allowed to work on the university campus. And they are only allowed during the quarter or semester, only allowed to work up to 20 hours a week. So it's really important, and I've seriously gotten students in trouble for who have worked off campus without permission or inappropriate jobs. I once had an international student show up at my house that was delivering a Domino pizza, and I had to terminate his immigration record because he was working illegally. So it's something that is taken very seriously, but there are lots of opportunities to work on campus. And Lisa's going to give you some examples of those. Next slide.
Thanks, Marcy. Yeah, there's so many opportunities on campuses all over the US. And for international students, one thing that's important to know is you're not going to make enough money to pay for your tuition or your housing, typically with student jobs, but they often give you some pocket money and oftentimes some leadership experience on campus. And so you'll see both Marcy and I listed examples from our campuses, but they're pretty common across all universities and colleges in the US. A good example, and I was so glad Person talked about student government. On my campus, if you are in the student government and you get elected, you get paid. And so for the past several years, the president of our student government has been an international student, but he also gets paid money. So it combines those payment as well as that leadership experience. In my own office, we hire 17 student workers who are international students to help us take pictures, to help us translate, because like Marcy, my Arabic is not very good, and we need help with that. So I want someone to answer the WhatsApp messages that my office is getting in Arabic, and since I can't, I pay a student to do that. We also have other jobs like tutoring. If you're great at math, our students might need help in math, and you can get paid to help other students. In my campus, we have a parent-child center. So if you have a passion for early childhood education, you could get paid to help at that center. But there's many, many opportunities. And at other campuses, there's often dining services jobs as well. So if they have a Starbucks on campus, a pizza place on campus, those types of things, they often hire international students, as well as front desk for deans or other types of work like this. So if you're excited to get work experience when you come to a US university, talk to your advisors and see what opportunities are available, because we would love to hire you. And some schools have more availability than others, but we all know which jobs are available and can help direct you to them.
As a four-year, we have a lot of research opportunities for our students. I was just talking to one of my students from Nepal. He actually is developing an app. It's kind of like Yelp, but it's if the restaurants are COVID friendly. And so he's working on 2 different apps this summer and being paid to do that.
Next slide. Off-campus employment. So Marcy explained to you that most students without special permission can work on campus, but there's a lot of ways that you can work off campus as well. But these will require you to come chat with your advisor so that we can help you get permission. And there's 2 types of off-campus employment that students are usually looking at. One is CPT, curricular practical training, and that would be an off-campus job while you are a student. And the other is OPT, optional practical training, which is what you can do once you've finished your degree. And typically those internships or jobs can be 1 year once you've graduated, but it must be related to your course of study. So if you're studying engineering and you graduate, you can't work at a restaurant. You need to work at a company that works on engineering projects. And so you really want to work with your advisor to help you identify those types of jobs and apply for your permission to do that. And you get 1 OPT year after you graduate per level of study. So person at Lone Star and at my school at Shoreline, after your associate's degree, you can take 1 year. And then you transfer to SCAD or Valparaiso, you get another year of OPT. And if you get a master's degree, you get another one. And so there's many opportunities per level of study. Though I'm sure Marcy would want to remind you, if you get a double bachelor's degree, you still only get 1 year for that bachelor's level, even if you're a double major. But if you're a STEM major, science, technology, engineering, and math, after the bachelor's level, you can even do an additional 2 years. So 3 years total. You can't do that after your associate's degree, but after your bachelor's. And there's many, many majors that count as STEM. Obviously, engineering and computer science, the very obvious ones. But there's many that are less obvious, like psychology or finance. And so I encourage students, if you're thinking, wow, I love OPT, I'm really excited to get involved, to really look to see if your major qualifies for that STEM extension after your bachelor's degree. And I listed one example of a student that graduated from Shoreline. She went from Shoreline and did a mini OPT after her associate's degree, then went to University of Washington to study software engineering, and then did OPT at T-Mobile. So one thing I encourage students to do is think about, if you have a dream job you want to get experience with, look at the city that your school is in. I know many students choose Seattle, where Shoreline is, because there's many Fortune 500 companies like Microsoft or Amazon or T-Mobile. And that can help students with these OPT opportunities, or if the professors have relationships. So if not even the location, but the relationships of the professors, that can help students identify those opportunities.
Next slide. So I'm going to talk about, because CPT is a little bit more common at a four-year university than a community college, but some community colleges do have these opportunities. And this is something that can be done at a bachelor's or associate, bachelor's, master's, or PhD. But once again, these rules are set by the US government. They have to be related to your major. So once again, if you are engineering major, no, you cannot go work as a waitress for CPT just to make money. Some CPTs are paid and some are not. But the important thing is that you are getting permission from, it's not a hard process, but you do have to meet some criteria. You are getting permission from the college or university you're at to work off campus in a job that's related to your major. Now, so I saw someone asked about internships. This is how you do an internship off campus, is through CPT. Some majors on my campus, like engineering and our business major, require an internship or co-op to graduate, and some are optional. So it depends on the major, and it also depends on the major if they're paid. Valparaiso, for instance, does not have a lot of jobs. Does not have a lot of classes in the summer. And this is all remember, this is all during normal time. So with COVID, things are working slightly different, but the rules still hold true. So, during the summer, during the academic year, we're mostly in-person classes during the normal year. This year, we're doing a mixture of hybrid, online, and in-person classes. But in the summer, we don't offer a lot of in-person classes because we offer our classes online because we want our students to go away and go do an internship. We are trying to help a student build a resume before graduation. A lot of times, universities have partnerships with certain companies, depending on where they are, as Lisa mentioned. Often these internships are like a pre-interview. So they bring you on as an intern to see if they want to hire you for OPT after graduation. So there is tons of opportunities for internships, co-op, and CPT allows you to do that. People always go, oh, can I do CPT my whole time I'm studying a degree? It is limited to 364 days of full-time OPT. So you could do a little bit each summer. Part-time, there is no limit, but it has to be related to your major and you have to get permission from your university. So CPT is a permission from the university. OPT is a recommendation from the university, and then you send it off to the US government. So there are lots and lots of opportunities for internships, and it's very important that once again, you follow these immigration rules. Next slide. So once again, OPT, CPT. OPT is usually after you complete your degree. CPT is what you do in your degree. OPT, you can work part-time or full-time. And CPT, you only, well, if you're doing it during the academic year while you're studying, usually you're doing it part-time. If it's in the summer, you can do it full-time. OPT, you need permission from the US government. CPT, you only need permission from your university, but you put it on your document. And after if you're applying for STEM OPT, that is after you've completed for 1 year of your employment, or when you're getting close to that, you have to apply for extension to get the STEM OPT. And it has to be a company that's registered with the government, which a good majority of the big companies are. So that's a little bit about OPT, CPT. I think next slide.
Thank you. So many students always ask us, how do I get a job in the US and keep it when I graduate? So we wanted to talk a little bit about H-1B visas, which is the business visa to stay in the US. In general, it's up to the business, right? They're the ones who make the ultimate decision if they want to keep you on as an employee. But what's important for students to understand is that these OPT or CPT opportunities are often an audition for these H-1B opportunities. So if students are thinking, man, I really liked that 1 year after my associate's degree, and then my 1 or 3 years after my bachelor's, but I really want to keep this job and continue working here, our best recommendation is do an amazing job, because that's what's going to motivate your employer to want to continue your employment. In that way, colleges and universities are often asked, can we guarantee you'll have a job and stay in the US? And the answer is no. But depending on the companies that you're working at for your OPT, they might have more resources to help you with this. So for example, like I mentioned, Microsoft, many of the students who start at Shoreline and then transfer within the Seattle area end up there. They have an entire in-house legal counsel that helps with these types of immigration pieces. But there are limits every year. And so what students should know is it's possible that you could stay, but it's never a guarantee when you come on a student visa that you can stay. But the best way to put yourself in a good position to be able to is to get good OPT and internship experience so that employers know who you are and can decide if they want to help you do that.
The other thing really important about the H-1B, you guys have to remember, is the company sponsors you for this. The other ones are not necessarily connected to a certain company. The H-1B is connected to the company. One of my favorite students is Riri. She went to Shoreline. She's from Indonesia. Then she went to San Jose State for computer science, did so many CPTs. And she went to go work for Adobe. They applied for her she did OPT, and they actually she didn't even apply for the STEM OPT, because the company decided they liked her so much, they put in in the lottery for her to get an H-1B visa. And now that she has her H-1B, they like her so much, they are actually even applying for a permanent resident. But it's because she's highly skilled. The more highly skilled you are in your profession, the more likely a company wants you, and it's easier is, the H-1B is for highly skilled people. And this is, she only has a bachelor's, but she has those skills because of her major and her coursework and her internships.
Just quickly, Marcia, to add, I see someone's asking about if internships are paid. And much like all of our answers, it depends. Many are, but sometimes students will want to work for a company that didn't budget, but they have a need and a professional development opportunity for students. So if you're interested in a paid internship, they certainly exist, but you could certainly stumble into an unpaid one as well. So know what you want or need out of that internship, and then you can decide if you want them accordingly.
It's more likely paid in the STEM fields and probably business. Some other fields, it's a little bit more challenging to get those paid internships. Jeff, do you want to talk about this at all? You want to add from the SCAD point of view?
Just that, again, SCAD has 13 STEM majors. We have a comprehensive office that starts with the process of OPT very early. Processing times can be lengthy, so plan ahead. We offer CPT as well. Again, I saw a number of questions about percentage of students that find summer internships. Again, we host a career fair each February, where students have the opportunity to bring their portfolios and meet with prospective employers to begin that summer internship process. And so our internships paid. We as university really recommend that students only consider taking paid internships. I know that there are going to inevitably be ones out there that are not paid, but our stance from a career and alumni success perspective is that they really should be seeking out internships that pay them.
Okay, so we've already talked about career services and on-campus job fairs, but I'm going to talk a little bit about more because I think it's something unique to the United States. We have an office, and I don't care if it's Shoreline, Lone Star, SCAD, or Harvard. We all have offices. Their whole job is to help you find jobs. Some of those jobs are admitted, or some of those jobs are for on-campus jobs. Some of those jobs are off-campus jobs. But the whole purpose of this office is to help you get a job. So they help you develop. We at Valparaiso, we have a 95% job placement rate over the last 5 years for our graduates, or they get into grad school. So we have because we start working with our freshmen right away. And so the center helps students build a resume, because even for on-campus jobs, they often want a resume, and you might not know how to do that. Maybe you have never done a job interview. How do you do it? Get it ready for a job interview. They have career fairs, on-campus job career fairs to find jobs on campus, and they have career fairs to help you find a job off campus for internships or for jobs after graduation. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. We even hosted dinner on campus teaching you etiquette, business etiquette. So there's a lot of things you don't even think about. You could have tons of skills, but if you don't know how to do something we call an elevator pitch, you might not get that job. An elevator pitch is a pitch, a description of yourself in the time it would take you to go up an elevator, why they should hire you. And you really need that if you're at a career fair, because sometimes you only have 3 minutes to say, this is why you should hire me to work for this job. So we help develop those skills. And this is not, I would repeat, not something you use 6 months before you're graduating. This is something you should be using throughout your education, throughout your degree, at your associate, bachelor's, master's, or PhD. These guys are really your key to finding those jobs and having the right skills and be able to sell yourself. And I think this is our last slide, I think. And so there's our contacts. We're happy to answer general questions. We're happy to answer questions about our university. I'm at Valparaiso University, 72 kilometers from Chicago. We offer bachelor's and master's degrees. Undergrad, we offer scholarships up to $30,000, and for master's up to 25% off our tuition. Lisa?
Yeah, thanks, Marcy. I'm really excited to join Jeff in person, as well as Marcy, in answering all of your questions after this. But do feel free to contact me if you have any questions about community college. Like Person said, we'd love to help you and understand this. I just saw a counselor asked about our criteria for what we're looking for from an academic perspective. So I might take the quick moment to say a unique thing about community colleges that sets us apart from other universities is we tend to be open admission, meaning that we are not going to hold students to a very high academic standard, but the deal is the exact opposite of Harvard. We say you don't need perfect grades to get in, but once you come, we expect students to work hard because they'll spend 2 years with us, and then their grades at our institutions will determine where they can transfer for their last 2 years. and what types of scholarships might be available for them when they transfer. So of course, we always encourage students study English. It makes it easier to get a visa and it will make your life easier when you come. But if you're maybe not a perfect student or you have lower financial resources, community colleges are a very affordable way to start your US education. They're about 50% of the cost of most public institutions and about 70% of the cost of most private institutions in the US. So that's something that's very important for advisors to know, that if you're working with a student with either financial need or perhaps some academic need that they need to fill or raise their grades, community college is a great place for them to start.
Thank you so much,
I will second Lisa's exactly what she said. It's a great way to start. There are certain benefits for students to be a transfer student, as Lisa would agree with me. There are nationalized scholarships for transfer students, like the Jack Kent Cooke Scholarship. It is a big prestige, and it's an honor to be even a semi-finalist for that scholarship. It is $40,000 a year, where students get to study a bachelor's degree at their choice of institution. And at least at Lone Star College, we've had one finalist since the year of 2012. And as Lisa mentioned, there are just great benefits for starting at a community college. Once you get a four-year degree and you have a diploma in hand, there is nowhere on that diploma which says that you started at community college, where the first 2 years, you spent a little less money but gained the same education. So thank you, Lisa, for bringing that up as well.
I did 2 + 2. 2 years community college and 2 years University of Arizona.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now Vanessa, our Education USA advisor in Lebanon, will facilitate the next part. Vanessa.
Okay, hi everyone. So we do have a few questions from Manar. So she's asking, what are the students' requirements you are looking for? And she's asking from the point of view of an academic counselor.
Well, at Valparaiso, on a 4-point scale, we're looking for a 3.0. We do require, we are test flexible, so you can meet our requirements with the A levels, O level, SAT, ACT, Duolingo, IELTS, TOEFL. So there's a lot of ways to meet our English or test requirements. We do a holistic review of the student's app. So yeah, if you're 2.8, but you've done all this other cool stuff, we might consider you as well. So we're test flexible, but we're looking for the right fit for our students. So we do a holistic review.
All right. So
I
also
would say I can just add a little bit, and I'll talk about, like, I guess for least, I mean, not on behalf, but just community colleges in general, that we don't have very stringent admission requirements, as in we don't need a certain GPA or a test score. But if you want to be part of a particular program, like if you want to be part of the honors college at Lone Star, or any professional programs like engineering or health professions, etc., you may have additional requirements as such. And also, I think in the United States, we do value a very well-rounded student. So it's not just high academics, but it's your leadership roles. It's your, what else have you done apart from being, you stood second or third in your class. We like to see a well-rounded student.
And I've had a lot of students go to community college first because maybe their math skills weren't where they really wanted to do engineering, they really wanted to do STEM, but maybe their high school, or maybe they weren't that committed. I'm thinking of a Saudi student specifically who went to Shoreline, and he really helped bring up his math and science skills. And then he was able to get into engineering program. He wasn't a bad student, he just didn't have those skills, and he didn't know he wanted to do that. So that's another great reason at community colleges is that besides saving money, it can help you build up skills because you didn't know I wanted to do this major.
Okay, thank you. So also another question from Hashim. Can graduate students have full-time jobs?
No one's allowed to have a full-time job unless you're on OPT or CPT in the summer. Many graduate students have graduate assistantships if it's at a big research university, but they're supposed to be only 20 hours a week, and they have to be on campus. Grad students, associate, bachelor's, master's, PhD, all have to follow the guidelines we talked about, with 20 hours a week on campus, CBT or OPT. So it's you usually don't do a full-time job.
Yeah. Okay, so Hashim is also asking, can you describe a typical student-created club, such as the activities, the privileges granted by the university, funding, and so on? And we do get a lot of this questions also, and mostly about the athletic clubs.
I think the fun thing about the US is there's very few typical things. At my school, there's over 90 clubs and organizations, and many of them are very different. And I'm sure that's true at these other institutions as well. So we have everything from very professional clubs, women in the sciences and engineering, the DECA Business Club, where you're practicing what you learn in class. But we also have hiking club and salsa dancing club and ukulele club, things that are fun to help you socialize. And of course, sports clubs. In general, the way that looks is you apply, you fill out a small constitution or a small application saying, here's who the key members are, the president, the vice president, maybe the secretary or treasurer, and here's what our goal is with this club, and here is who will be our advisor. So I think all of us on this call have been an advisor, if not now, in the past, for International Student Club or for whatever else, but you would ask someone who works at the college to help you. And then at most schools, you would submit that to the student government. Usually the student government has some power of the purse where they can award money as long as you meet those goals. And the typical facilities that you'll find them in is anywhere on campus that's available. So you'd work with your advisor and say, hey, my friends and I are starting a soccer club, and you us reserve the gym, and then they can look in the system and say, sure, it's available at 7 a.m. every day. Which day would you like? So a lot of it is just working with your peers and working with someone on campus to help you create the club. But what it is really kind of sky's the limit in terms of what your excitement and interests are.
What I do want to talk about a little bit different is athletics. So there's two kinds of athletics in America. This is very simplified. I believe SCAD is also, you guys are Division I? So there's clubs that are sports, like you're playing with your friends playing soccer, or as you guys would call it in the Middle East, football. Then there's Division I, Division II, Division III, and then the community colleges have their own division. These are more competitive clubs that are around athletics. And I'm a Division I school, so that means we can give up to full scholarship for athletics, but you better be really, 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 really super good. And then some sport, like my basketball, which is nearly impossible to get on my team, is you can get full scholarship. But my soccer, when I was just talking to my soccer coach yesterday, he only probably gives partial scholarships. And Division I teams and Division II teams from the NCAA, and you have to, if you want to be an athlete that is going to get a scholarship for your athletic ability, you have to register with this organization called the NCAA. And those, and like I said, it's almost like that is almost like a second job. But you have to be a student. That's always your first thing. And you being a student athlete is your second thing. And so the Division I has the clearinghouse, and that's for Division I and Division II schools who give more scholarships. But you have to be cleared by the NCAA. Now, community colleges work a little different, and you can move from community college athletics to a Division I or Division II team. But there's a whole, I mean, we could do a 3-hour lecture on this one alone. But there's two kinds of athletics. You think of clubs, you're playing with your friend, and the athletics where you're competing against other schools. I think SCAD even has a horseback riding competitive organization, right? I don't know if that's Division I or not.
Yeah, we have an equestrian team. Again, the typical student created clubs or activities you can participate in, intramural sports. That's sort of that's not the collegiate competitive sport. So, you know, can you describe a typical student created club? It can run the gamut of anything you want, really. Many of the clubs at SCAD are going to be academic based. But again, we have an intercultural student association, headquarters out of our student center. So each university and college is going to have a unique mix of actual activities and clubs you can join.
Next
All right, so
question.
speaking of clubs, Hashim is also asking if you can find martial arts clubs in the US as well.
It depends on the school. Every school has different clubs and organizations. So if you're really passionate about martial arts, ask about that during the admissions process or when you're researching your schools. And sometimes clubs come and go. I know at my college, some last for many, many years. They're a staple. And others, one student was so passionate about anime. So there's an anime club for the 2 or 3 years they're with us, and it might graduate with them. So I would just really, if you have something like martial arts or something else you're passionate about, ask so that you know for sure what that will look like when you get there.
Sure. And just one more thing to add, I know that students are asking about clubs and organizations in the campus, and as my colleague said, there are plenty, but also exploring your community. You know, there are community centers, you know, in the cities where you're going. If you're really passionate, if you don't find something on your campus, you know, look out to your community center. There are YMCAs, or there are, you know, standalone community centers, which may have the clubs, like, you know, martial arts and things like that you are looking for.
Okay. Do community colleges offer research opportunities?
So yes and no. So again, depending on the community college. So at Lone Star College, if students are interested in research opportunities, undergraduate research opportunities, you know, they are more likely to be part of the Honors College, which I said is a competitive selective admission. It does have higher requirements like, you know, 3.5 GPA and SAT scores, et cetera, that's needed to be eligible. So those, you know, competitive selection, you know, more like the Honors College would have some undergraduate research as such. But mainly at the community college level, you know, again, you'll have to look at the institutions, and maybe, you know, Lisa has something to add to that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that lead in. Exactly. At Shoreline Community College, our honors program is very well known for offering students a year-long research project with a professor, and they're able to go present that at the University of Washington, which is the top public institution in our state, at a research symposium. So if students are passionate about getting involved with research, again, ask the community college you're excited about, and we can direct you to ways you can do that on our campus. At Shoreline, it's not exclusive to the Honors College, but it's most abundant in the Honors College. And so I would definitely, if you asked me, say, here's how you apply to the Honors College. Let me introduce you to their director and help you make that connection before you come.
Okay, thank you. So also we have a question from Nadia. She's asking, are there any colleges or universities that are very hard or impossible to transfer to from a community college? And she also asked about if community colleges offer financial aid.
Great question. Person, please, maybe I'll start and toss it to you, because I think we'll have similar experiences. In general, almost all universities are excited to welcome community college students, but some might be a little bit easier to transfer to than others. In general, public universities are very easy to transfer to because the curriculum aligns between community colleges, which are public, and those public institutions. Some private institutions might be a little bit trickier. And the reason for that is they might not be on the same accreditation as the community college. And so one of the most important pieces, if you know what your dream school is is to talk to academic advisors that are there to help you with their transfer process. I know at Shoreline, we have many full-time academic advisors that only work with international students. So if you say, these are my 3 dream schools, they'll tell you, well, here's the classes you should take. Here's a special requirement if you're trying to go to UC Berkeley. If you're applying to Yale, here's some considerations you need to have. And so I think many of our colleges have seen students transfer to Yale and Columbia and very elite institutions. But many of us also offer guaranteed pathways, transfer admission guarantees. So at Shoreline, we have over 30 partner universities that will guarantee when you start at Shoreline, if you get certain grades and take certain classes, you're automatically admitted. And so there's many paths to transfer from community college on to other universities, and we can help you do that. And really quickly, before I throw it over, I'm seeing a lot of full scholarship questions at community college. In general, no. The promise of community college is we keep the price relatively low for everyone, but usually that means we don't have huge full scholarships to give to individuals. Our model is to try to keep it low for all students. So at Shoreline, most of our scholarships are $500 for new students or up to $1,250 for continuing students, but they're not full. But of course, by comparison, our tuition's about 50% less than all of our neighboring universities and about 70% less than those private schools that are nearby. So of course, cost is relative and you need to talk to your parents about that. But in general, it's not common to see full scholarships at community college. Kristen, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure, absolutely. I think, just like Lisa said, transfers are, again, very relevant to the community college you're going to. It's always good to have a plan. I encourage all students, you can't stop at the associate. In the least you have to get a bachelor's. I would encourage all students to get a master's degree. So, know what your end goal is, and then, work a little backwards and say, okay, well, I can start with this. The reason you can do that is the first 2 years at public institutions in the US, the education is very core, what we call the core curriculum. It's, as Lisa mentioned, it's easier to transfer to institutions within your regional accreditation. However, our students have transferred not just to local or state institutions, but they've transferred, especially like our honors college students have transferred to like Vanderbilt and Duke and Rice University, which is private here in Houston. So it really depends. And a lot of students do that, exactly what Lisa said. I want to get into Texas A&M, or I want to get into the engineering program of this. How can Lone Star College help me get there? Again, transfer, when you're a transfer student, you've already you've done your English and college level math. So it's easier to transfer to universities. You don't need your SATs and things like that. Again, talk to them about your choice of, institutions. And with scholarships, just like Lisa said, we are very, very affordable. However, at the Lone Star College Honors, we do offer 3 tiers of scholarships. So some can be partial, but again, Honors College is very selective. And the most competitive within the Honors College would be the Chancellor's Fellows, which is a full scholarship. It's all paid for. We also give you a book and a living allowance within that scholarship. But again, it's like we accept only 15 students per campus every year, so it's very, very selective. So you have to go through, a process for a scholarship of that nature. It is available. Again, ask around, look at institutions that are a good academic fit, that are a good cultural fit, that are a good affordability fit, put all of those together and see what's more important to you.
Okay, and thank you, Marcy, for your answer about transferring. So your answer was Shoreline has a 98% transfer rate. 95% of universities allow transfer. Few big universities are not very transfer friendly. However, many public institutions are required to take students from community colleges. So thank you, Marcy, for this answer.
And a lot of universities now have special scholarships just for transfer students. So my sister also started at a community college, and she got into Smith, which is one of the, a very highly selective school. And I got accepted to the University of California system and the University of Arizona. Like I said, there's a lot of these schools are very allow that, and they have special scholarship. Valparaiso has a special scholarship just for international transfer students, so that they can apply for.
And just one quick thing to add is that, you know, when you're aspiring to go to an Ivy League, or you're aspiring to go to a big institution, like a research institution, sometimes they're more likely to take students from the community college, only because they know that you've proved yourself in the first 2 years. So institutions, like bigger institutions, they're really looking at the graduation rate. They want students to graduate, not just, you know, admit and drop off. So at the community college level, you've already completed your US education for the first 2 years. You have those grades. So they're more likely to accept you because they know that you're more likely to finish with them.
Thank you, Marcy, Person, Lisa, and Jeff, for answering the attendees' questions and for sharing all of the information. If we did not answer your question, or you need any resources or any explanation, please visit our Education USA website, educationusa.state.gov, and you can search for the Education USA Advising Center in your country. And now I'm going to hand it over to Melissa. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you. So just want to say again, chime in with my thank yous for all of our presenters today, and for all of you who have tuned in to watch and learn a little bit more about the topics being covered. It's exciting to see so many of you really asking about opportunities to engage on campus. And what we do want to remind you is that it's about the broad experience. So as persons have said, that, you know, it's, yes, clubs on campus, but there are opportunities off campus as well. And so you want to think about, you know, what is it that you want to get out of the total experience? And as you're looking at those options, you know, look at what fits with what you're interested in, and also with what's going to fit with your timing. So you want to make sure that you are being successful academically while also broadening those other interests that you might have. So thank you again to everyone for tuning in. The recording will be available on the various Education USA Facebook pages, so you have the opportunity to go back and revisit the session if you've missed any part. And again, reach out with any questions you might still have. For those of you that are getting ready to travel to the US, all the best, safe travels. We look forward to hearing success stories for you. For those that are still waiting and working on some of those final changes that are coming up with our current pandemic situation, you know, be patient, be resilient. We are all kind of working through these together and trying to take it day by day. So we're here to help you through that process as well. So that's it for everyone. Thank you.
Assalamu